At Ventum Financial, we believe that sharing another person's story is a privilege. The people inspiring and activating others, role modeling what's possible, solving problems today, and building for a better tomorrow. Who is relevant is subjective, but what if we turn the dial? Leaning into the courageous leaders who quietly drive positive change. This is ReleVant, where leaders, creators, and change makers share the ideas shaping business, culture, and the world, one conversation at a time. In this episode, I met with Jennifer Bernard, President and CEO of SickKids Foundation, a leader at SickKids who oversees philanthropy and strategic programs. She blends lived experience with institutional leadership to shape how fundraising, clinical strategy, and community care come together for children's health. Jennifer explains why precision in care matters and how returning children to their homes and communities can be as important as any clinical intervention. What stayed with me was how practical compassion becomes a strategic advantage. When you design the hardest problems, the solutions lift care for everyone. This conversation really highlights the importance of stewardship, how leaders align mission, resources, and teams towards durable impact. What happens when strategy meets compassion? Jennifer Bernard shows how that mix actually changes outcomes for children, and we dig into how it works. This is ReleVant, where people are discovered. Thank you for joining me. Jen, I remember the first day we met 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was on the golf course. Yeah. You were riding around in a golf cart.
That's right.
I was playing terrible golf. But I had the privilege of hearing you speak that day. And that raised the hair on the back of my neck.
Goodness.
And I actually cried a little. And my family will tell you I never cry.
Oh,
my nickname is the cold fish. So that was an impactful moment for me. And I remember that's when we were starting to work on anti-human trafficking and what it is we could do to support them. Right. After seeing you speak, I was like, I'm getting behind you. And I knew that you would be able to build something really unique and special with us. And we ultimately did that at Women's College.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I have always been drawn to causes that really align with my values and really, fighting for not just the underdog, but people that deserve an opportunity to be seen and be heard. And the anti-human trafficking was something I was so passionate about. And you guys really were driving this forward. And I wanted to know, how could I help?
There was no one who's arrived more ready than you. And I can tell you that we spoke to a number of organizations, and I just felt you put the full package for us together, because we both knew it wasn't a one-stop solution through simple care and servicing and rehabilitation. It needed to be within the entire EMS community and beyond. Right. And I'll never forget how you latched on and led it. And we've had a huge impact across Canadian hospitals.
Well, you guys were really sophisticated in your approach and had spent a lot of time. So I have to say, you take credit for doing tons of groundwork. You had all the data, all the information. What we had to come up with was a really, a solution as complex as the problem.
It was.
And what I love about what I do in healthcare in particular, with the groups that I work with, because at the time we were working with women, the largest underrepresented group in healthcare in so many spaces. Now I work with children, same thing, 20% of the population, so don't get quite as much of the emphasis on them as we think they should.
Yeah.
So if you solve for the most complex, you solve for everyone. And so that's the approach that we took with the anti-trafficking work. If we could solve for this really complex group, it would waterfall into so many other areas. And the support that you guys provided was really a catalyst for that.
Well, you were very much an integral part of that. So let's skip ahead to our lunch.
Okay.
When a new chapter started for you.
Yes.
So we went for our lunch, as you may remember, just over at McGrath at Mars. And
yes.
I was very excited because I thought I had an opportunity for you that you would want to be part of. And we weren't even at our forks being lifted, and you said, I can't tell you something.
I know.
Do you remember?
I do. I was just saying to my husband, he's like, who are you meeting with today? I'm like, Debbie, do you remember the day before they announced that I was the president and CEO of SickKids Foundation? She offered me an opportunity. And had that come at any other point in my life, it would have been like, literally the biggest thing that could ever happen to me. But it was a day away from me announcing that I was taking on this incredible new job. And you were so gracious. You were like, wow, I'm so happy for you.
Are you kidding?
Yeah. And
I jumped up and down.
I know, you did. You did.
I couldn't be more proud of you.
You were.
The right person for this role. Canada needs it. The hospital needs it.
I appreciate it.
You are inspiring.
Oh, I love that. You're so sweet. I mean, I feel like my whole career has been leading towards this moment, because not only have I been in philanthropy for 30 years, but I've worked at 4 other hospitals, including another children's hospital. And I'm a sick kid's mom. Yeah. I'm a sick kid's mom. So I have lived this experience that I share with so many other people now.
So let's talk a little bit about that. You've won a number of awards. You sit on a number of boards. You are recognized widely. Has there been one that surprised you that you didn't see coming?
When I won, honestly, the 100 Most Powerful Women award, I literally asked if it was a joke. Like the first time that,
You're such a woman to do that, by the way.
I was like, somebody nominated me and I won this award. And at the time, it was during COVID. They had this other piece of it. So I won 100 Most Powerful Women, and I won the Inclusion Vanguard, which inclusion for me was such a beautiful piece of it, because that's really what I've been working towards my whole career. Who's left out? Who's left behind? Who aren't we serving properly? So to have it both the 100 Most Powerful and join these incredible women and being seen as a person really focusing on inclusivity was extra special. So that's one of my absolute favorites.
That is a special one. Now, what would your mom say?
My mom would say that she knew it, that it would happen, because my mom is the person who said, you can do anything. Yeah. She said, you are limitless. She would say, I would be like, well, there's never been a woman or a person that looked like me that did this. She'd be like, oh, don't worry about it. You'll be the first. It'll be fine. It's time women were at the table and go there. So my mom is my greatest champion, and she has always really encouraged me to push my limits. And that has helped me do so many things in my life.
And how have your boys supported you?
Well, my boys grew up in this. My older son, who's 27, is the sick kid's kid. I have worked in philanthropy their whole life, so they've been on the front line with me. They volunteered, they've come to events, they hear me talking about what I'm doing and why. So they have a really good sense of why philanthropy is so important, not just to me, but I think to the fabric of society, and really holds us together.
So you did something that's very typical of women, to not believe that you would, of course, be recognized at the level that you were.
Right.
And something you and I have talked about and have been asked as well of, what is it like to be successful? And what was your key to success? And you and I have both sat on a very similar brain space of,
I joined Ventum because I was looking for a firm that was independent, entrepreneurial, and allowed you to be your very best self at work.
I was with them previously and came back because it felt like a family to me. And I haven't been able to replicate that culture really anywhere else.
It's been amazing energy so far and great camaraderie amongst our team.
And there's a real sense of teamwork, which in turn creates a highly collaborative and intellectually stimulating work environment.
I'm excited about working in an organization that has a commitment to a service culture enabled by empowering people, continuous improvement, and process re-engineering.
Ventum is a leading independent company with an exciting future. We have a very strong platform.
Someone would like to join Ventum because of the firm's commitment to enhancing not only the experience of their employees, but also the experience of their clients.
We distinctly and passionately believe that if we give our investment advisors, our frontline capital markets professionals, the tools and the resources that they need, that they will take care of our mutual end client.
Turning up for people, this is Ventum. Let's talk about success and debunking it.
Yeah.
So do you want to share some of your thoughts around that?
Well, I think success is not a straight line. I think a lot of people think it's like this hockey stick. You start here and you go straight up. I think that a lot of it is having an incredible network of incredible people that you don't leave behind, that you gather throughout your career. It's also knowing that you have to push yourself outside your comfort zone, and you're not always going to succeed at everything you do. It's not going to be a perfect path. it's realizing that the world is sometimes not set up for you and you have to sort of build your own bridge. You have to create your own opportunity. I think that women in particular are often underrepresented. And I always say you have to bring your friends into the room with you. So I have a group of people who I consult with on a regular basis who are like my little board of directors who help keep me, looking at my North Star. But I would say success is not one thing and it's not the same for everyone. Did I know I was going to be the president and CEO of SickKids Foundation? Probably not, but I always put myself in a position that if that opportunity came up, I would be ready for it. I've had setbacks. I've taken jobs that were horrible. I've had bosses that were not great, but I just tried to learn every step of the way. And I also built an incredible community around me. So that's been really the secret sauce. When I look back and people say, how did you do it? I didn't, it didn't go perfectly, think that this is where I would always be. I didn't lose the great people along the way that had, inspired me. Sometimes they were my peers. I didn't have a lot of women ahead of me that looked like me. And I also realized that what people called failure was just learning. That was a big one for me. Experience. And you have to allow yourself to do that and not beat yourself up. The one thing I tell people is speak to themselves the way they would speak to a friend. If a friend fails and comes to you and says, I completely failed on this, I did everything wrong, you wouldn't say, yeah, you're a complete failure. Why did you do that? You would say, what did you learn? How does this moment make you feel? What can I do to make it better? That's how you have to speak to yourself. So being kind to myself was a big lesson, because when I was younger, it would be like I would beat myself up a lot.
Being kind to yourself is a learned lesson. Yeah. And I'm not really sure who put the tapes in our brain. Yeah. I can say horrific things to myself that I would never think about another human. And it's a strange space of why that can live in our personal audio.
And I think that it is often, if you are the first or the only, there's no one to turn to, and you feel a bit isolated to say, has this ever happened to you? Right. Because you feel like you need to have that you need to be perfect. And that's something that you also have to overcome. Are you an only child? I am not. I'm the middle child. So in a way, I play the arbitrator between my older sister and my younger brother. So I am the one that has to be a little bit more even keeled, because he's the baby, she's the oldest. So I find that I play that role in many parts of my life. But that perfectionism is something that I really think gets in your way. And, my son just came back from Japan, and he said they build an imperfection in everything they do, because they know that pursuit of perfection actually often veers you off your course. I didn't know that, but I also learned that perfectionism is actually a flaw, and that in the imperfect, you often find the best solutions and the most gains.
I like that. Good perspective. So let's talk about foundations and how much they have grown and shifted. I believe that you mentioned that you manage over $1.7 billion in assets for SickKids Foundation. And when I think about my mother's experience of hospital foundations that tend to be the auxiliary. Women knitting babies' booties or sweaters here at the hospital. And now it has become a business unit within itself. Exactly. It is probably really the heart of the organization of what's going to be the strategy in the future. And if you could tell me a little bit what led to that evolution, and if somebody was interested in pursuing it, I believe actually there's degrees around it now. Can you shed some light?
Such a good segue, Debbie. So almost all all foundations, all philanthropy usually starts with a bunch of women. I know that sounds very gendered, but that's usually how it starts. Even this hospital started with, Elizabeth McMaster being fed up with all the children in Toronto, 50% dying, and got a few group of friends together and said, we're going to open a children's hospital. And 6 iron cots, and 150 years later, we're here. Right. So women are at the heart of, community engagement and building that safety net often and almost always. And it almost always starts with those booties and outreach. What has happened over time is, as hospitals and healthcare in our system has grown exponentially, we have a socialized healthcare system. One payee, our government supports it. our needs have outstripped the demand.
Right.
And so governments, they keep our lights on. They help build our infrastructure, but they do not cover all of our costs. And over the last, I would say 50 years in particular, those costs have gone up exponentially. And the opportunity to innovate is on the other side of government. Governments do not gamble taxpayer money on innovation.
Sure.
What they do is they help you build the infrastructure, but everything else is your responsibility. So now hospitals don't just like to have philanthropy. They need
necessity.
It's pretty much a line item. And when you're as big as we are at SickKids, what has separated us over the years is philanthropy. We would still have a great hospital. We would still do great work. But the innovation, the attracting and keeping the best, the, breaking the boundaries, being the hospital that's a beacon of hope to the world, all made possible through philanthropy.
So philanthropy is a huge component of Canadian culture.
Yeah.
70% of Canadians have a plan giving.
Right.
Or at least assume they will, whether they follow through. So tell me about how it is you would like people to consider their future giving. So we usually do the T's, right? Time, treasure, talent.
I would say, if I spoke to my younger self, and I started in philanthropy as a volunteer, I would say to young people, get involved. Roll up your sleeves and do something. Start there, because you will catch the bug and it will not leave you if you find the right organization and the right kinds of causes that are aligned with your values. So I would always start there, especially at this time where kids they feel like they're lost and there's no purpose. I always say, if you can't find a job, spend your days job hunting and then volunteer. That will give you purpose. So I always encourage people to do that. And then I would say start small, become a monthly donor, get on that journey, start reading the information about the organization, see how they treat you, see how it makes you feel to be part of that community. See if it's even a community. Is it the kind of organization that speaks to you in between donations, or is it only when it's time to donate? Really find what works for you. And then the causes that most move you, like people love children because they are innocent.
Yeah.
They have done nothing to deserve to be in a place of last resort like SickKids. And so if that appeals to you, then you should find organizations that align with that. And I would say stay on the journey to fix the things that we need to fix, whether it's the environment or healthcare or anything else, homelessness. We need people who are in it with us. Roll up your sleeves, and at one part of your life, you might be a monthly donor. And when, things change, you might say, I'd like to make a one-time gift. At the end of your life, you might be thinking, let's put something in my will so I can pay it forward.
Leave a legacy.
So leave a legacy. So I think it's like the charities can meet you where you are, and you just have to go on that journey with the charities that you care about. But time, treasure, and I would say bring your friends. If you build a community around you, just like at work or anywhere else within your philanthropic community, that helps you really make it feel like it's part of your life and not just something slapped on the top of your life.
So thinking about sharing your message and the younger generation who might be coming new into philanthropy, has SickKids taken any bit of an approach around TikTok or social media, knowing that that's their space?
We're constantly moving into that space. We're really known for pushing the limits versus our brand blew up the internet. We always say we broke the internet, but that's because...
You might have broke the internet with Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds will break all internet records. Literally, we just have to have him in the building and, you can feel it. The internet is here. I would say that we've gone to our community, and we've also been very, very big on really representing what we do in a way that appeals to young people. Young people, and what you'll find about the kids in our hospital, they fight. They are not passive. Right. Even when they are extremely sick, even when the odds are against them, they are fighters. And that's why the Versus brand has been able to transcend all the platforms that we're on. Recently, my head of, my chief marketing officer said, we're doing a lot on Reddit, which I would have thought that's not a place for sick kids, but she's like, we're having some of the best results. Yeah. So whether it's Meta, whether it's using Instagram, whether it's using Google, we are everywhere. Our audiences and where we want our audience to be. You have to anticipate your audience, right? And you have to build the messages that resonate with them. So we really built a brand that is timeless and that really resonates with our ethos, which is our kids are not helpless.
Yeah.
Our kids are fighting, and even our 150th birthday, the motto is fight for every birthday, fund the fight. And that is who we are. So we use our social media with that same kind of thought process of going out and really finding and attracting the people who want to fight.
So tell me then, if we've got social media where you can share stories and you can sort of evolve your message.
Yeah.
Technology being a huge component of the kids. I think I told you I was just in on the weekend, unfortunately, with my daughter, but I was amazed to see everyone's got an iPad.
Yeah.
All the systems are talking. I know that makes a faster response rate, which is exactly what you're trying to do. You want people outside of SickKids, not inside.
Exactly.
Tell me technology in the future and sort of the plan, because I have to assume AI is part of that.
You're right on the money with that, Debbie. So as part of our new campaign, which is called Precision Child Health, one of the things we're trying to do is predict better, treat smarter, diagnose faster. That's sort of the motto. And AI plays a huge role in that. You know, AI and human genome sequencing, these are the microscopes, what the microscope was to the last century. Now we can do things we never thought we could do before. So in our emergency room that you experience, we have predictive modeling. So when you come in and you're triaged with your daughter's symptoms, we have a model that works in the background that says, based on her symptoms, these are the tests that she's going to need. These are the people within the organization she's going to need to see. And let's line those up. Instead of you having to come back and after you've seen a doctor waiting 3 hours, those tests are ordered the moment you come in. You mentioned as well that there was a wait time.
An expectation meter.
Expectation meter.
I thought it was amazing. I've always said anytime I wait in a line, it's like the subway system.
Exactly.
Just tell me how long till the next train, and then my anxiety will be reduced, which is really what you want.
Exactly.
For emotion in the place or experience.
Exactly. People coming here highly amped.
Of course they are.
Worried.
Nervous.
They've probably tried something else. But now with the expectation meter, we know that people have an idea of how long they're going to wait. And you would not believe how it takes everybody's temperature down. And people understand. You're triaged by acuity. Everybody knows if a child comes in that, was a victim of almost drowning or even had a stroke. Children have strokes. They're going to be at the front of the line and they understand why. They just need to know information is power.
Absolutely. So tell me, when we look at AI, and there is obviously an undercurrent of anxiety for people and losing jobs. But what you're describing is only moving things through faster, but isn't a loss of human talent. So how do you see SickKids growing from a talent perspective? I would have to imagine those who would like to work here is a very long list.
It is a very long. We have a village, over 11,000 people work at SickKids already. AI is going to not actually decrease the number of humans we need, but free up the humans we need to do the work that humans need to do.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it. There's so much administration. There's so many technical things that you have to do to keep a hospital humming along and people moving along that take the doctors, the nurses, the physiotherapists away from the child, away from the family, away from the bedside. What AI allows us to do is give them back that time so that they can be at the bedside, that they can see another child and spend time. When the system is ordering the test, instead of a nurse having to sit down, write it out, type it out, order the test, put it in another system. The system's doing that automatically. That nurse can now be seeing that next patient and that expectation meter is coming down. So you have a much better experience. It's not really about replacing humans. It's letting humans do what humans do best, which is interact, speak to patients, make sure we're hearing everything they need to hear, and making sure that they have that wonderful handheld experience that they deserve when they come in crisis.
So how are you finding as well when we're thinking about technology? You know how systems such as MyChart.
Yes.
And MyChart is really a library of data of the tests that have occurred as well as any of the results. And then one can take it to their GP for further follow-up. How is a system stressed? Because we know that there's been a lot of retiring from the GPs. Does something like MyChart help you ultimately with that? Do we need a call for more people for doctors in Canada? How do we move things more quickly?
Well, I would say that's really a question for Ronnie at the hospital, but I'll tell you from my perspective, sitting at the senior management table, in Canada, our greatest stress is people. Our greatest stress at SickKids is people, because you have to remember, to work in a children's hospital, you have to be fully trained to be an adult doctor. Then you got to go back and specialize. If you want to do research, you have to go back and specialize yet again. So it's a very long-term investment in your education. And then what happens at SickKids is we are the number 1 or number 2 children's hospital ranked in the world by Newsweek every year. We are also the number 1 publicly funded children's hospital in the world. And so we train tons of people that come from all over the world, and the Canadians that are from here are also highly sought. So keeping our people is probably one of the biggest stress.
Retention.
And retaining them here in Canada and making sure that we can keep them. So the people would call it the brain drain or the expertise drain is very real in pediatrics. Small population, highly skilled, takes a long time to gain those skills, and then highly sought after. So everywhere from the United Emirates to New Zealand to England to the United States, all coming after our people. So our stress is making sure that we can offer them the research facilities, the grants, the opportunities, the investments, the robots, the AI that they're expecting, that they could get other places in the world here in Canada.
Here. Let's talk about strategy and Vision 2030. It's on everybody's mind. I have to think at the hospital, it's forefront to you.
Yeah.
The next 5 years, what change do you see being the most transformative?
I think in our sector, it's really having global solutions. Like, having solutions that only work in one area is not good enough anymore. I think for sick kids, our precision child health is not about making sick kids better. It's about making all healthcare better. So the world has gotten a lot smaller. So strategically, you really have to start thinking about bigger markets and making sure that you're relevant, not just locally, but globally.
Interesting. So what are some of the statistics, Jen, about having a child leave the hospital and recovery and home? I know that's very much a priority for you, is to get them out as soon as possible.
Yes. Well, I think that, we provide acute care. So we are in the hospital where kids are the sickest. And so we always want to get them, one thing is out of sick kids, because if you're at sick kids, you're among the sickest. So what we want to do is either get them back to their community hospital, because, kids come from all over our country, and then get that step down home, because you actually get better at home faster. I know people think having all the doctors and nurses and everybody on call, but actually being in your own bed, your own environment, having your own stuff, actually makes you better. And so home is medicine. So, we do what's right for every child, but a lot of parents will be like, they're pushing us out of the hospital. We're not pushing you out of the hospital. We're putting you in the place where your child's going to get better. So we have a whole education program to help kids get home.
Jen, what I love about this space is it reminds me of what it would have been like founding SickKids, and the thought about the generations and the people that have been here. But looking forward, Strategy 2030, what do you see for the future, and where is SickKids focusing?
Well, we're focusing on precision child health, which is really about, making sure that each child is treated as an individual, and we solve for each individual child. And we call it solving from the genetic code to the postal code, and making sure that we do that individualized care so that we don't waste resources, that we get to the root of issues, and that we solve them for each child based on their unique composition, where they live, what they eat, their education, their environment, as well as their genetics. So 2030, we are going to be solving the problems that we thought were unsolvable, from everything asthma to autism.
That's incredible. So tell me a little bit too around genetics. I know that SickKids is one of the world's most advanced. My children had their DNA tested here because they have a possible gene inherited from their dad. How much do you see that taking a role in the future? And where is sort of the boundaries on that, on the ethics and the morals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So 50% of the kids that come here have some sort of genetic link to why they are sick.
Sure.
So more and more as we learn about genetics, even things like mental health, at few years ago, they thought that had nothing to do with genetics. Now we know there are genetic components to mental health. So genetics are playing a huge role in everything we're doing and will only increase over time. So precision child health, again, there's a whole area around genome sequencing and using medications that are altering or changing genes, not the ones you pass on, but the ones that stay within your body. So it's going to be a plethora of things that we're going to be able to cure and treat that we could not have imagined that we treated before. So that's what's really going to be driving healthcare for 2030 with AI, with new clinical research practices that really bring us into the age, I say, of Star Trek, where we have the opportunity to diagnose almost anything and treat almost anything.
Incredible. That'll be a next journey.
That'll be it. That'll be it.
So tell me a little bit, we talk about mental health as obviously being a big component in someone's circle of care.
Yep.
And I believe that more attention has gravitated to that in the last 8-10 years, even so much with COVID. And when you talk about better healing within the home, that mental health component must be a big aspect for it.
Yeah.
What do you see in that shift from when it was that you started with Trillium?
Gosh, I have to tell you that since I started to now, it's completely different. First of all, it's accepted that mental health is health. If you're not mentally well, it doesn't really matter if you get better physically, and you can't get better without having both. And also that mental health is at the heart of, treating and diagnosing children. Many kids that are critically ill suffer from depression because they're critically ill, and you have to treat both. But also on the other side, that mental illness was sort of separate from everything else, and that you couldn't treat it with genetics, you couldn't treat it with medication, and that philanthropy couldn't help. Well, philanthropy in mental health, especially at SickKids, has helped enormously because the brain is one of the last unexplored areas, and philanthropy allows us to innovate in that area.
Interesting. So if there was one piece that you wanted as our takeaway from today and the future and your journey and future of SickKids, what would that be?
I would say that now is the time to invest in children, because if we want a better world, our vision is healthier children, a better world. You have to start with children. That's why I came back to children's health. We cannot wait till issues become chronic. We cannot put Band-Aids on adults that we should have taken care of in childhood. Mm-hmm. We have to look at children and say they are 100% of the future. And so we have to solve our healthcare issues in childhood. And if we solve those issues in childhood, we have a better country because we have more productive children. We spend less money on healthcare. We can look at things like the climate and make sure that we are creating the world that children need. So by healing children, we really create a better world.
Jen, can you tell me a relevant piece of advice that you receive that you continually come back to?
Oh, this is a hard one because I've had so many great mentors, but how I've ended up in SickKids and probably how you've ended up where you are is that you haven't stayed in the same pool. You've always expanded your pool. So my advice to young people is you will only grow to the size of the pool that you swim in. And if you want to have a bigger impact, if you want to do more, you have to be willing to get outside your comfort zone of your little pool and move into a bigger pool. A shark grows to the size of the vessel it's in. If you want to take on the world, if you want to change the world, you got to take on big things and you got to move into a big pool.
Great advice. Jen, we are so lucky for you giving us your time. I cherish our time together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.